Severe thunderstorms with heavy rainfall, lots of lightning, large hailstones and damaging wind gusts are now developing through southeast Queensland and northeast New South Wales. This is your latest weather update. I'm going to be going through all the details on what you can expect later today and what you can expect as part of the bigger picture severe thunderstorm outbreak this week. So as we know, today is day one of a 3-day severe thunderstorm outbreak, bringing plenty of rainfall, mind you, across southeast Queensland and parts of northeastern New South Wales. We've already got severe thunderstorms beginning to develop through central parts of Queensland. We've got a couple of scattered storms out here with a bit of rainfall and hail in them out around the St George and Charleville area. Nothing too crazy developing, but they are still rather strong. And a few thunderstorms as well now moving into the Warwick area through the Granite Belt and Darling Downs that are going to push into the southeast corner of Queensland in the next half an hour or so. These thunderstorms are severe warned with heavy rainfall, damaging wind gusts and large hailstones. We've also got some rainfall here with a few embedded thunderstorms pushing into the northeast coast of New South Wales. We actually had some very impressive structure on a few of these thunderstorms before they left and moved out into the Pacific Ocean. A few strong storms as well behind this out around the Inverell area and moving up towards Glen Innes into the northeast of New South Wales, or moving north of Glen Innes in New South Wales. But all these thunderstorms here look like they are weakening off a little bit. However, that's not to say that the threat is now over. Later this afternoon, these thunderstorms are going to continue to push up into the Granite Belt and the Darling Downs, eventually into parts of the Scenic Rim, and then by the evening into the Wivenhoe Outlook towards the northwest of Brisbane, which is located right here. We'll also see a couple of these thunderstorms push into the Gold Coast hinterland and then through the Gold Coast area too, and we will be seeing some heavy rainfall later today through southeastern Queensland, and that could put Brisbane in the firing line for a severe thunderstorm or two. This is what the convective forecast modelling is showing right now. Definitely some strong thunderstorm potential, that's for sure, and it's only going to increase as we get further on through the day, in particularly towards the north of Tamworth, up into the Wivenhoe Outlook, not Tamworth, rather Toowoomba, into the Wivenhoe Outlook, and then into the Glasshouse Mountains in the southern part of the Sunshine Coast, basically in this circled area here, and this also throws in Redcliffe, Caboolture, and the Samford Valley towards the north of Brisbane into the firing line for thunderstorms that could be severe with heavy rainfall. Furthermore, some strong thunderstorm activity upscaling from the clusters of thunderstorms we're seeing through the northeast of New South Wales will move in to the southeast corner of Queensland through the Scenic Rim and then into the Gold Coast hinterland and then eventually into the Gold Coast area itself at around 4:30 this afternoon, and then pushing towards the Pacific coastline by around 5:30 or 6 o'clock this evening with some potentially heavy rainfall, damaging wind gusts and lots of lightning also embedded. There's also some strong thunderstorm potential out in towards central Queensland. Right now a lot of these thunderstorms are located in western Queensland, but they're pushing steadily towards the east and they are going to continue to upscale just as we're beginning to see these thunderstorms in the northeast of New South Wales do so. And what that means is our traditional pulse thunderstorms we're seeing developing right now are going to turn into lines of squalls and multicellular thunderstorms, and that is best represented as we push the forecast modelling out even further, where you can see a pretty solid and robust line of thunderstorms is expected to extend inland from Roma and Injune through Chinchilla, Kingaroy, and then over towards the Sunshine Coast and through the Glasshouse Mountains towards the north of Brisbane. It's basically going to be one solid line of thunderstorms with a few embedded stronger spots and a few embedded weaker spots and dry slots within this line of thunderstorms. A very typical squall line, late summer type pattern as well when we're talking February and March. These are the very traditional type of thunderstorms that we see through southeastern Queensland, and that's kind of what's making this outbreak of thunderstorms this weekend a little bit different compared to what we would normally see at this time of the year. Typically through southeast Queensland as we get towards mid to late November, we're talking about violent severe thunderstorm potential with giant hailstones, destructive wind gusts, and locally intense rainfall, whereas these storms coming through are a lot tamer in comparison. We're mainly talking about a risk of moderate to heavy rainfall from a lot of these thunderstorms, particularly later tonight north of the Wivenhoe Outlook into the Samford Valley and through the Glasshouse Mountains. I definitely expect this area to here towards the north of Brisbane to be a hot spot for strong thunderstorm activity later tonight, but again, all things considered and comparing them to recent thunderstorm outbreaks that we've seen through southeastern Queensland, this is very, very tame by comparison. Really not something to be overly concerned about. Like I said, late summer pattern here, very typical stuff for southeast Queensland, something that you've seen time and time again. Now, the strongest thunderstorms are, as mentioned, going to be in the Wivenhoe Outlook through the South Burnett Forecast District and then inland towards the north of Toowoomba, and this will also include Dalby, Tara and Chinchilla in the firing line for some potentially heavy rainfall. But our larger population centres such as Brisbane, Toowoomba Toowoomba and the Gold Coast are going to be comparatively spared from these thunderstorms. Definitely the strongest stuff is expected towards the north of this line here, which comes very close to both Toowoomba and Brisbane, and also some strong stuff is possible into the Scenic Rim up towards Logan and into the Gold Coast hinterland. But you can also see that there is that little bit of a dry slot, which includes the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area, and also through parts of the Ipswich and the Toowoomba area down towards Warwick. And comparatively speaking, further inland, these thunderstorms are not very strong right now. There are a couple of solid lines of these thunderstorms here moving further inland, and they are continuing to upscale. And just really zooming in on these thunderstorms here through the northeast of New South Wales, you can see right now they are for the most part multicellular in nature. There's lots of little cells of thunderstorms here that are combining up into this squall line, and this is a truly good example of what thunderstorms look like when they're beginning to upscale. So whilst we do have some strong thunderstorms here and there embedded within them, it's now beginning to become one long line, one big long embedded line of severe thunderstorms that's pushing in towards the northeast of New South Wales and then eventually into southeastern Queensland. And over the next couple of hours, we're going to see these thunderstorms properly begin to develop into this one big long line. So later tonight, we're going to be talking about kind of a situation where we've got a massive line, a bit of a gust front with some heavy rainfall and damaging wind gusts ahead of it, potentially a bit of small hailstones as well, or small to large hailstones just behind that gust front, and then a lot of rainfall that's going to be sinking in behind this thunderstorm as it begins to push off into that east-northeasterly or northeasterly trajectory, and that's going to move up into the South Burnett forecast district. This is the very early stages of upscaling thunderstorms, which, if you are brand new to my channel and I haven't explained it to you properly, upscaling is where these thunderstorms go from our traditional pulse thunderstorms or supercell thunderstorms and then begin developing into big long lines of squall thunderstorms, which can stretch for hundreds upon hundreds of kilometres and travel a long way. Very typical pattern in southeast Queensland, particularly through January, February and March, and squall thunderstorms are what brought those extremely strong winds to the Gold Coast on Christmas Day 2023. So squalls can be equally dangerous as supercell thunderstorms, but generally speaking, our upscaled versions of thunderstorms are about 20 to 30% weaker, comparatively speaking, to our earlier afternoon versions of thunderstorms as well. I hope that's cleared up any confusion, or if you've had any questions about the definition of upscaled thunderstorms, I hope that is answered. For the most part, these thunderstorms are substantially weaker than what they are going to be later today, particularly on the rainfall side of things. These storms still have a lot of growing yet to do, and that is because today we've had a lot of high cloud coverage through southeastern Queensland, so the temperatures just haven't gotten up there through Brisbane and the Gold Coast, which is very hostile to severe thunderstorm development. We need warm temperatures for severe thunderstorms, and that is why for Brisbane and the Gold Coast our conditions are just not favourable for severe thunderstorm development, and why the conditions there are going to be tame. In saying that, we're still expecting thunderstorm activity later today for both Brisbane and the Gold Coast. It's just unlikely to be severe at this point in time, and the worst of the stuff coming through is probably going to be between 8 to 20 millimetres of rainfall, nothing more. Particularly for Brisbane, it is expected to be a little bit dry compared to locations further north, and also by extension a little bit further south as well. Lots of lightning is still possible into the Brisbane City area, and we are expecting a pretty sharp front to come through when these thunderstorms do arrive. We'll definitely be talking about a quick change in wind direction and maybe an increase in wind speeds up to 80 or even 90 kilometres an hour in one or two spots. But again, just to reiterate, our strongest storms into the Wivenhoe Outlook, then into the Glasshouse Mountains and through parts of the South Burnett forecast district as well. Not overly concerned for the Brisbane or the Gold Coast area later this evening and into tonight. We will be seeing these thunderstorms continue to upscale, which means increasing in precipitation but decreasing in severity. These thunderstorms will be getting weaker as the night goes on. By 9 o'clock, we're expecting these thunderstorms to push well and truly into the Sunshine Coast. In fact, for Maroochydore and Noosa, they're likely to arrive earlier than that, at about 7 o'clock for Maroochydore and about 8 or 7:30 or 8 o'clock for the Noosa area, and then up in towards Gympie by around 8:30. Further inland out around the Goomeri area and then Gayndah, we're looking at these thunderstorms getting in at about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the evening, and it's probably a little bit of a stretch for these thunderstorms to make it as far north as Eidsvold or Gayndah as well. These thunderstorms likely to be a little bit weaker by the time they get up there, and very much on the dying side as well. Taroom could still see a strong thunderstorm or two as well. We're definitely looking at kind of two clusters of big thunderstorms pushing up, one of them in the South Burnett and the Sunshine Coast as mentioned, the other one moving further inland here from those pulse thunderstorms that are beginning to fire right now. Now, when forecasting severe thunderstorm trajectory and thunderstorm motion, we need to be looking at our winds in the in the lower atmosphere and also parts of the upper atmosphere. This is beginning to sound like scientific gobbledygook, but stick with me. The winds on the right-hand side of your screen right now, these wind barbs on the right-hand side of your screen, between the 700 HPA range down here and the 500 HPA range up here, this is where our thunderstorms are going to be moving. And you can see by the wind barbs, we're going to be looking at these thunderstorms developing in the west-southwest and moving up towards the east-northeast. So kind of this direction direction on a bearing of about 60 degrees or so, and you can see these wind speeds here on a direction of about on a speed of about 30 knots or so. So they're not going to be getting along too fast, but when these thunderstorms do develop, you can see them out here on the radar imagery. They're out here at around the Warwick area, and these thunderstorms are going to be pushing through in this direction here, or more sort of in towards this direction, which means the storms developing around the Warwick area are likely to just clip the Brisbane area later tonight and then move into the Gold Coast hinterland and the Scenic Rim in the next couple of hours. And then we're going to be seeing these thunderstorms that are beginning to develop towards the north of Goondiwindi later today, moving up into the parts of the South Burnett and the Sunshine Coast, and then eventually into the Wivenhoe Outlook. And I can show that on the radar imagery right now. You can see that conditions are a little bit calmer, but we've still got a couple of strong thunderstorm activity beginning to develop out here towards the southwest of Tara, and these are our thunderstorms that are going to upscale in the next couple of hours before moving up into the South Burnett and the Sunshine Coast. This process will take about 4 or 5 hours to do, so we're not expecting thunderstorms until much later tonight, even though it's only 3:30 in the afternoon when I am recording this video update. The thunderstorms are still at least 5 or 6 hours away in some of these spots here. But these thunderstorms here, as mentioned, currently situated along the border, or really quite close to the border. They're going to only clip the Brisbane area. They're already beginning to move out to the sea right now. We've got some strong clusters developing around the Warwick area, which means I expect these to slide into the Scenic Rim and kind of thread the needle between Brisbane and the Gold Coast. And then these thunderstorms here, a little bit stronger over the border into the northeast of New South Wales, should bypass the majority of Queensland, kind of just hanging around those border ranges and sliding around into the south of the border ranges into the northeast of New South Wales, and that will basically be it. And then of course these thunderstorms out here in this part of Queensland, they're continuing to grow in intensity, and then by the time they get just outside of Roma, I'm expecting them to continue to or begin to upscale, and then they'll head up towards Taroom and over towards Kingaroy, where they will begin to die off at around 9 or 10 o'clock later tonight. So it is a very long-winded forecast. This is for Southeast Queensland, but there is a lot of detail in the forecast right now, and considering that we are now beginning to see thunderstorms develop, and pretty much in the exact same way as what the forecast models were suggesting as well, which is very good to see. Very happy to be able to say that the forecast is now beginning to come off. So all of the forecasts that I've made so far still remaining very, very relevant across Southeast Queensland especially. Now looking forward to tomorrow, we can't obviously go into as much detail as what we're talking about today, but we are going to be starting things off a lot clearer through Southeast Queensland. This morning started off with rainfall and showers, but tomorrow is expected to start off with some finer weather, and that is going to be very healthy for severe thunderstorm development. Temperatures will quickly be able to rise into the 30s, which is very favourable for severe thunderstorms, and I'm expecting some robust development towards the north of Brisbane and Toowoomba, in particularly into the South Burnett forecast district and around the Wivenhoe Outlook. And let me show you what I mean by that. Major forecast models are now very fond of some strong thunderstorm development around the Ipswich and the Toowoomba area, starting from about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. Also some strong thunderstorms here and there through the Scenic Rim and into the northeast of New South Wales. And then these thunderstorms moving towards the northeast up into the Glasshouse Mountains in quite a strong and potentially a significantly severe capacity. So these are definitely going to be thunderstorms worth watching. Convective forecast modelling, which is just updated, and I can't actually show you on this outlook right now, is calling for the strongest thunderstorms to be around this part of Queensland here through parts of the Darling Downs area and then out towards Goondiwindi throughout the early afternoon hours. And then you can see a couple of stronger thunderstorms developing towards the north of Toowoomba out towards Dalby and Chinchilla. These thunderstorms will then push into the Sunshine Coast and the South Burnett forecast district into the later afternoon hours. But it also looks like for the most part Brisbane and the Gold Coast are going to miss out on the most significant severe thunderstorm activity tomorrow once again. And the reason for that is because the dry line tomorrow afternoon is going to be very far inland and very similar to the outbreak that we had, well, with that dry line being further inland, I'll highlight that for you right now, but similar to the outbreak that we had on the 1st of November, where the dry line was also very, very far inland. It takes these thunderstorms a long time to get out towards the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area, and as such, by the time they arrive there, they're likely upscaled versions of themselves and most likely on the non-severe side of things. So tomorrow is also not overly concerning through Southeast Queensland, but it's still possible that we will see 1 or 2 strong thunderstorms into the Brisbane or the Gold Coast area. Unlike the forecast that I've given for this afternoon, it's impossible to pinpoint exactly where the strongest thunderstorms are going to be tomorrow afternoon. That's going to be a bit of a waiting game, and we'll have to wait till tomorrow morning's forecast update to really give an idea on what we are expecting through the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area. But for now, it looks like the Wivenhoe Outlook is once again going to cop the most significant thunderstorm activity. You can see as we push things forward out into the later evening hours, even though these thunderstorms will begin to upscale into the late evening hours, they're still expected to be very strong, and the main risks tomorrow through this part of Queensland do include large and potentially giant hailstones, damaging to locally destructive wind gusts, and heavy to locally intense rainfall accumulations as well. To a lesser degree, the Scenic Rim will also see some strong thunderstorm activity, and then eventually that will push later on into the evening into the Brisbane and the Gold Coast areas upscaled versions, which likely means we'll still see some severe thunderstorms pushing into the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area or around Brisbane and the Gold Coast tomorrow. Whether or not they're going to get direct hits, again, kind of lies in the convective forecast that we're waiting for tomorrow, or waiting on in the next couple of hours to come out for Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Still looking promising for some areas around Brisbane to receive some large hailstones, damaging wind gusts, and heavy rainfall through tomorrow afternoon and evening. These thunderstorms are not going anywhere either. Thunderstorms are expected to be developing right through Saturday night into Sunday morning, and in fact, we're likely to be waking up with some thunderstorms into the Scenic Rim area and through the northern suburbs of Brisbane up towards Caboolture and Bribie Island through through Sunday morning rather as well. Good thunderstorm potential lies Sunday morning through both Brisbane and the Gold Coast. And we could be talking about some heavy rainfall because a lot of these thunderstorms are going to be very slow moving. These storms will then upscale throughout the early morning hours. By about 10 o'clock, we're expecting thunderstorms for the most part to be clearing out of the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area, and this is when the rainfall is expected to start. We've got a lot of tropical moisture coming in from northern and central Queensland, and that's going to push right through central into towards southeastern and southern Queensland through Sunday morning, arriving into the Brisbane area by around lunchtime on Sunday, and it's going to start off about a 6 to 12 hour period of steady but somewhat heavy rainfall accumulations, and widespread falls between 20 to 60 millimetres are expected through this part of Queensland. That also includes the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area. Some very healthy rainfall accumulations are now on the forecast, and that is on top of the rainfall that we've had overnight through parts of southeastern Queensland. More rainfall expected, of course, tonight, with some of the heaviest force from the thunderstorms coming through this weekend forecast into the Wivenhoe Outlook tonight. Severe thunderstorm activity will deliver more rainfall on Saturday, but the bulk of it will be coming through Sunday afternoon and evening as this rainfall pushes in from the northwest and drenches southeast Queensland with some of the best rainfall that we've seen in the last couple of months. Very, very exciting indeed. These thunderstorms right now, they're your garden variety severe thunderstorms that are developing and aren't anything to be overly concerned about either. I don't foresee the risk of very dangerous severe thunderstorms today, and as such, I'm not going to be running live coverage. Tomorrow, though, with some strong thunderstorm potential towards the north of Toowoomba, I'll be releasing, of course, the twice daily video updates and the update on the second channel in regards to the tropical low situation, and all of the updates, as usual, coming out on the Facebook page, but I'll also be running some live coverage on the YouTube channel as well, just to make sure that you are in the know in terms of what to expect across southeastern Queensland tomorrow afternoon and evening, because tomorrow afternoon and evening, despite the more widespread and the more severe storm activity that we're expecting towards the north of Brisbane today, tomorrow will be the bigger brother in terms of how strong these thunderstorms are going to be to get. They'll be more isolated in nature, but tomorrow has better potential for more significant, severe, and even very dangerous severe thunderstorm activity through southeastern Queensland, and I'll be making the most of that by running some live coverage to keep everybody informed over here. If you haven't already, then please do consider subscribing and also leave some feedback in the comment section down below if you have enjoyed this forecast update. Thank you so much for watching it, and as always, a massive thank you to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run the show without them, and their support is, as always, massively appreciated. That's going to be all from me today. I'll catch you on the next storm. Goodbye.